Market got a bit of a chill yesterday on these reports of ways the president is thinking about trying to punish China, headlines about voiding certain debt obligations. You just want to iron that out?
Yes. As I told Eamon yesterday, full faith and credit of the United States debt obligations is sacrosanct, absolutely sacrosanct. And I might add, the president indicated as much when he was asked about it later in the day. Not only the full faith and credit of our debt obligations and other commitments, but also our intention to keep the dollar as the world's reserve currency. So let me put any of that to rest. China has issues, don't get me wrong, and the president will be dealing with those issues. They have a lot to answer for. The virus originated there, a lack of transparency. All that will be sorted out over time. But regarding Treasury debt and the full faith and credit of the United States, that will not change.
Then what is being considered, Larry, and how do you walk the tightrope given the fact that we're still dependent on them for important things coming down the supply chain like food and drugs and PPE and all sorts of things?
Well, I will just say at this point, we are, as a matter of policy deliberations, we are looking at different options to perhaps bring American companies located in China and perhaps elsewhere around the world back home to the U.S. There are a number of ways to do that. By the way, full cash expensing, 100% cash expensing, which is going to be phasing down in the next year or two for American companies, that has to be bolstered. That's a key pro-growth incentive element. That would apply. We could pay the moving expenses for these companies. There are a number of options we are looking at. So we'll have to, I don't want to get ahead of that curve. But yes, we'd like these supply chains to be based here. I think to some extent, we've seen the importance of that. Now, I don't want to do this overnight, or I don't want to jar markets or anything like that. So we will work through. We will talk to the Chinese. We do have the Phase 1 China deal, by the way. The USTR issued a report, I guess it was yesterday or the day before, that Phase 1 deal with China is moving along, maybe a little slow on the commodity purchases because of the damage to the economy, all our economies from the virus. But it appears, at least at this point, that China is working to implement the trade deal. So we will see. They have a lot to answer for. They're going to be held accountable. But again, full faith and credit of the United States debt obligations will be maintained. That is sacrosanct.
Larry, I hope you'll forgive me if this is a dumb question, but does the president or the administration believe that somehow the Chinese engineered the release of this virus to either derail his reelection or weasel out of Phase 1 or both?
Carl, there are a lot of theories around. There are a lot of discussions around. The president has his views on this. Those views are being developed with the help of our intelligence people and others. So I don't want to go too far down that road. It'll be up to the president to make final decisions here. What we know with certainty, we had the G7 video teleconference meeting, let's see, it's about 2 weeks ago now. Pretty much all the G7 leaders agreed the virus originated in China, and some of those G7 leaders were particularly vociferous about the lack of Chinese transparency and cooperation in pursuing investigations to get to the bottom of this. So that is an open discussion, an ongoing discussion.
All right, Larry, always great to hear from you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
Just to follow up a little bit on what Carl's talking about, if the president feels that the Chinese acted inappropriately, there are a lot of ways that he could really come after them, retaliate. One would be to raise the tariffs. Now, that was fine when we had unemployment that was incredibly low, but if you have 30 million people unemployed, we know that that harkens back to the Great Depression if you raise tariffs, even if you totally despise the Chinese and think they did a very bad actor. Wouldn't it be better to wait instead of retaliating, say, against them on key technologies or raising tariffs?
Look, as I said before, put it in this framework, an important way to look at it. it seems like years ago, but it was really just a few months ago, we signed a good phase one trade deal with China. And as I said, USTR has put out a report recently which indicates that the Chinese are cooperating and implementing. So that's a very important piece. With respect to future tariff decisions and other measures, that's going to be up to the president. I don't know that there's any rush right now. Our efforts here are to, first of all, continue to get this virus down, open up the economy, get folks back to work. Let's get some economic growth back. There's a lot of pent-up demand. Let's help businesses survive. Let's help payroll workers survive. As you know, things of all those things. That's really subject number one right now, and we are making progress on that. So on the China business, it's up in the air. They are going to be held accountable for it. There's no question about that. How, when, where, and why, I'm going to leave that up to the president this morning.